welcome to On Point Tutorial channel. My name is Obin Darlington. Please, if you are new on the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel and click on the notification button so that you will be informed of the subsequent videos. Thank you very much. So today we are basically going to look at deriving the demand and supply functions. How to derive the demand and supply functions. Sometimes in our questions, we'll be given demand equation or the demand function as well as our supply equation or the supply function. And the question will ask to determine the equilibrium prices and the equilibrium quantities. But not in all questions. Some questions will just give you some values and you'll be asked to obtain the demand and supply functions yourself. So this is one of the questions that I would like us to go through. So let's quickly go through this question and know how to derive our demand and supply functions. So the question reads, in an economy, consumers demand 20 units of coke when the price is 2 cedis, and producers supply 25 units. However, consumers reduce their demand by 5 units when the price increases to 3 Ghana cedis, and producers also increase supply to 30 units. However, we are to obtain the demand and supply functions for the data given. So when you get a question like this, it is different because the demand and supply equations were not given. So we cannot right away find our equilibrium price and equilibrium quantities. So what we are going to do is that we are going to do inspection. We are going to inspect the question and choose some values so that we'll be able to use that values to obtain our demand and supply functions. So without much ado, let's go through and try to pick in the values. So we have price in the question, we have quantity demanded, and we have quantity supplied. So consumers demand 20 units. That is quantity demanded. When the price was 2 Ghana cedis, 2. And what was the quantity supplied? That is 25 units. So we bring the 25 units as we have on the schedule. And again, consumers reduce their demand by 5 units. We are reducing the demand. What was the initial demand? 20 units. So in reducing 20 units by 5 units, then we know that we are going to find the difference between 20 and 5. And it's going to give us 15. So quantity demanded will be 15, and the price increased to 3 Ghana cedis. So the new price will be 3. And then producers also decided to supply 30 units because price has increased. So this is going to be a demand and supply schedule that will help us derive our demand and supply functions. So having gotten a demand and supply schedule, then we are going to base on the price level, quantity demanded level, and the quantity supply level to derive our demand and supply functions. So first, at price 2, 20 units were demanded and 25 units were supplied. When the price increased to 3, 50 units were demanded and producers increased to 30 units. So in obtaining the demand function, obtaining demand function, then we are going to use the default demand equation, which tells us that quantity demanded has a negative relationship with price. And I hope you are familiar with this equation. That is QD equals A minus BP. So in place of price and the quantity demanded, we are going to substitute the figures that we have in the schedule. So when the price was 2 Ghana cedis, what was quantity demanded? QD was 20 units. So we are going to substitute 2 and then 20 into the function for us to get our first equation. So QD will be 20 equals, then we have our intercepts, which is a constant, minus D, then the price is what? 2. So 20 equals A minus 2D. That would be our equation 1. Then again, when the price increased from 2 to 3, changes were made in the quantity demanded and quantity supplied. So we are going to also substitute the changes again into the default demand function and get our equation 2. So when the price increased 3, quantity demanded reduced by 5, which is 15. So let's substitute 3 and 15 into the default demand function. So what do we get? 15 equals A minus, the price is 3, so 3D, and that will give our equation 2. So it means that we are going to solve these two equations simultaneously so that we'll be able to get the values for A and D. And I know we all can calculate simultaneous equation involving two variables. So I am going to use the substitution method. So from the equation 1, that is 20 equals A minus 2D. I'm going to make A the subject of the relation. So I have A equals 20 plus 2D. It's a substitution method. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to substitute this into the equation 2. Let me name this equation 3. So I will just put equation 3 into that of equation 2. So from the equation 2, we have 15 equals A minus 3D. It means that wherever I see A, I will put there 20 plus 2D. So I'm going to have 15 equals the A. A is giving us 20 plus 2D, then minus 3D. So solving for D, then we group like terms. We are going to have 15 minus 20 equals, we have 2D minus 3D. The difference between 15 and 20 should be negative 5 equals negative what? D. So automatically our answer is going to give us D equals 5. That is the value for what? D. Now having gotten the value for D, then we substitute D, which is equal to 5, into any of the equation, either 1 or equation 2, so that we'll be able to find the value for A as well. So I will decide to put D equals 5 into equation 1. The equation 1, I have 20 equals A minus 2. D is giving me 5, so I substitute it. Then I'm going to have 20 equals A. And negative 2 times 5 will give us negative 10. Then my A will be equal to 20 plus 10. A equals 30. That is the value for A. So now we have the value for D as well as what? A. And then the default demand function is that quantity demanded is equal to A, which is the constant, minus dP. The D over here is the slope. That is the slope of the demand function, and the D over here represents the price. We are saying that a demand is a function of what? Price, which is indirectly what? Related. And so we are just going to substitute D and then A to have our demand function. So our demand function is going to give us quantity demanded equals the A is supposed to be what? 30. Then minus is there, minus D. D is 5. And then the price is there, so you bring your price P. And that will give us a quantity demanded function. So thank you very much. The next video will extend to calculating the quantity supplied in the question.